The darkness of space stretched endlessly around the UEF flagship Liberty. Admiral Alan Parker stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen. At 63 years old, he had spent most of his life among the stars, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Sir, we're picking up another distress signal," said Lieutenant Diane Foster. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel. "Same pattern as before." Parker nodded. "Play it." The sound that filled the bridge was unlike anything human ears had heard before. It rose and fell in strange patterns, sometimes like singing, sometimes like speech. "Can we translate it?" Parker asked. Dr. Gregory Walsh, the ship's lead scientist, stepped forward. He was younger than Parker, with quick eyes and steady hands. "We're trying, sir. The computer needs more samples." Commander Susan Miller joined them at the main console. She had been Parker's first officer for 7 years. "Admiral, we should contact Earth before responding. This is outside our mission parameters." Parker rubbed his chin. The Liberty and its 3 support ships had been sent to explore this sector, not to make first contact with a new species, but something about the message felt urgent. "How far are we from the source?" he asked. Foster checked her readings. "About 6 hours at top speed, sir." Parker made his decision. "Set course. We'll investigate." "Sir," Miller said quietly. "Protocols state." "I know the protocols, Commander," Parker said, "but by the time we get approval from Earth, it might be too late. Log my decision. I take full responsibility." The Liberty and its sister ships changed course, engines glowing bright against the black of space. As they traveled, Walsh and his team worked to decode the alien message. 4 hours later, Walsh rushed onto the bridge. "Admiral, we've got it. The translation isn't perfect, but we understand the basics." On the main screen, strange symbols appeared, alongside English words: help, attackers, destruction. Few remain. "It's a distress call," Walsh said. "A species calling themselves the Nilari. They're under attack by something called the Voraks." Parker leaned forward. "Can we respond?" "I think so," Walsh said. "We've figured out their communication method. It's based on light patterns as well as sound. Tell them help is coming," Parker ordered. As they drew closer to the source of the signal, the ship's sensors began to pick up signs of battle. Debris floated in space with broken pieces of ships and stations. "My God," Miller whispered as the main screen showed the scene ahead. A small planet orbited a yellow sun, much like Earth. Around it, dozens of ships were engaged in battle. The smaller ships were being quickly destroyed by larger, strange-looking vessels. The larger ships looked almost alive, with hulls that seemed to pulse and move. "Those must be the Voraks," Parker said. "And they're winning." Foster's console beeped urgently. "Sir, we're being scanned by both sides." "Shields up," Parker ordered. "But we don't fire unless fired upon. Let's try to talk first." The Liberty and its support ships approached the battle zone. Up close, they could see that the Nilari ships were smaller and less advanced. Many were not warships at all, but what looked like transport vessels trying to escape. "They're evacuating," Miller said. "Those aren't military ships, they're civilian." Walsh's communication system lit up. "Admiral, we're receiving a direct message from one of the Nilari ships." The screen changed to show an alien face. The being had pale blue skin that seemed almost transparent. 4 large eyes blinked at them, and when it spoke, 4 arms moved in patterns that matched its words. "Unknown vessels," the translation read, across the bottom of the screen. "I am Elder Kira of the Nilari High Council. Please identify yourselves." Parker stepped forward. "I am Admiral Alan Parker of the United Earth Federation ship Liberty. We received your distress call. What's happening?" "Here?" The alien's eyes blinked rapidly. "Humans. We have heard stories of your kind from distant traders. The Voraks came 3 cycles ago. They attack without warning or reason. They have destroyed 3 of our colony worlds already. This is our homeworld, Nalar. We are not warriors, Admiral. We are scholars and explorers. We cannot stop them." As if to prove her point, A nearby Nalari ship exploded as a Vorax vessel fired upon it. "How many of your people are still on the planet?" Parker asked. "Millions," Elder Kira replied. "We are trying to evacuate as many as possible, but our ships are few, and the Vorax target our launch sites." Parker turned to his crew. "Options?" Miller spoke first. "Sir, this isn't our fight. We're just 4 ships." Foster disagreed. "But we have better technology than either of them. Our weapons could make a difference." Walsh added, "The Nalari are clearly the victims here. If we do nothing, we're allowing a genocide." Parker made his second difficult decision of the day. "Foster, target the nearest Vorax ship that's attacking a civilian transport. Warning shot only." The Liberty's main weapon fired, sending a burst of energy across the bow of a Vorax ship. The effect was immediate. The Vorax vessel stopped its attack and turned toward them. "They're scanning us again," Foster reported. "More intensely now." Parker opened a channel to all 3 of his support ships. "Form defensive positions around the largest Nalari evacuation vessels. If the Vorax fire on us or the civilians, you are cleared to engage." On the screen, Elder Kira's 4 eyes widened. "You would help us? You would fight for strangers?" "Where I come from," Parker said, "we don't stand by while innocent people are killed." The Vorax ship fired first. Its energy beam was powerful, but hit the Liberty's shields without causing damage. "Return fire," Parker ordered. "Targeted strike on their weapon system only." The Liberty's response was devastating. The human weapon cut through the Vorax ship's defenses, disabling its main cannon. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. Both the Nalari and the Vorax appeared shocked by the display of human firepower. Then 3 more Vorax ships broke off from attacking the planet and moved toward the Liberty. "All ships defensive formation," Parker called. "This is about to get interesting." As the human vessels prepared for battle, Elder Kira's voice came through once more. "Thank you, Admiral." "Parker, whatever happens next, know that the Nalari will remember that humanity stood with us when no one else would." The Liberty's weapons charged as the Vorax approached. The first real battle between humanity and an alien threat was about to begin, and Admiral Parker knew that his decision would change the course of human history forever. The battle was brief but fierce. The Liberty and its 3 support ships, the Courage, the Honor, and the Valor, formed a protective barrier around the Nalari evacuation vessels. When the Vorax ships attacked, the humans responded with precision strikes. "Their shields are strong, but not strong enough," Lieutenant Foster reported as she directed the Liberty's weapons. "They seem confused by our technology." Admiral Parker watched the main screen carefully. The Vorax ships were unlike anything he had seen before. They moved in perfect coordination, almost like parts of a single organism rather than separate vessels. "Sir, we've disabled 4 enemy ships," Foster said. "The others are pulling back." Commander Miller looked concerned. "They're regrouping, not retreating. They're studying us." Parker nodded. "Send a message to all ships. We've bought some time, but this isn't over. Let's help the Nalari get as many people off their planet as possible." Over the next few hours, the human ships escorted Nalari transports as they lifted thousands of refugees from the surface. Dr. Walsh worked with the Nalari to improve communication between the 2 species. "They're amazing," Walsh told Parker, in a private meeting. "They've only achieved space travel in the last 100 years, but their medical technology is far beyond ours. They can regrow lost limbs and organs." "What about weapons?" Parker asked. Walsh shook his head. "Almost nothing. Their society focused on science, art, and healing. They never expected to meet a hostile species." Elder Kira joined them via hologram. Her translucent blue skin seemed to glow, and her forearms moved gracefully as she spoke. "The Vorax do not communicate as we do," she explained. "They attacked without warning or demands. They destroyed our outposts and colonies one by one." "What do they want?" Miller asked. "We believe they want our worlds for resources," Kira answered. "But they also seem interested in our people. Many Nalari were taken alive before being killed." Parker frowned. "Prisoners or test subjects?" Before Kira could answer, alarms sounded throughout the Liberty. "The Vorax are back," Foster called, from the bridge. "Much larger force this time," Parker and Miller rushed to their stations. On the main screen, they saw dozens of Vorax ships approaching. In the center was a massive vessel nearly 3 times the size of the Liberty. All ships, battle positions, Parker ordered. Focus fire on the smaller vessels first. The second battle was harder than the first. The Vorax seemed to have learned from their earlier defeat. Their attacks were more coordinated, targeting the weakest points in the human shields. The Honor took heavy damage, its engines crippled by a Vorax beam. The Courage moved to protect it, absorbing hits meant for its sister ship. "They're adapting to our tactics," Miller said, as the Liberty shook from a direct hit. Foster studied her readings. "Sir, I'm noticing something strange. The Vorax ships all change their attack patterns at exactly the same time. It's like they share a single mind." Walsh, who had been analyzing the Vorax communications, looked up from his console. "I think that's exactly what they do. There are no individual signals between their ships. They operate as a collective." Parker considered this. Like a hive. Mind? Then who's the queen? All eyes turned to the massive ship at the center of the Vorax fleet. "That must be their command vessel," Parker said. "If we can disable it, we might disrupt the entire fleet." He opened a channel to all human ships. "New target. All vessels focus fire on the large central ship." The human fleet changed tactics, pushing through the smaller Vorax vessels to get a clear shot at the command ship. The Liberty took the lead, its main cannons charging for a powerful blast. Just as they were about to fire, 3 Vorax ships deliberately crashed into the Honor. The human ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris. "No," Parker shouted. "How many got to the escape pods?" "Sensors show only 12 pods launched," Foster said quietly. "Crew of 85. Grief turned to determination on Parker's face. "Continue the attack. Make sure those deaths weren't for nothing." The Liberty and the Valor combined their fire on the command ship. Their weapons tore through its outer defenses, exposing its inner hull. "One more hit should do it," Foster said. Before they could fire again, the command ship released a strange pulse of energy. It wasn't a weapon, but some kind of signal. Immediately, all the Vorax ships began to retreat. "They're running?" Miller asked in disbelief. "Not running," Walsh said as he studied the readings. "They're adapting. That pulse contained massive amounts of data. I think the command ship is sharing what it learned about us with the rest of their fleet." Parker watched as the Vorax ships disappeared into the darkness of space. "This isn't over. They'll be back, and they'll be better prepared." With the immediate threat gone, the humans helped the Nalari continue their evacuation. Elder Kira invited Parker, Miller, and Walsh to the surface of Nalar to meet with the High Council. The planet was beautiful, with tall crystal buildings and gardens of plants that seemed to sing as they moved. But everywhere, the Nalari were preparing to leave their home. "How many of your people are left?" Parker asked Kira as they walked toward the council chamber. "About 4 million on this world," she answered. "Perhaps another million spread across our remaining colonies. Before the Vorax came, we numbered over 15 million. In the council chamber, 12 Nalari elders waited. They all had the same blue translucent skin as Kira, but each glowed with a slightly different color. The eldest spoke first. "Humans, we thank you for your help. Without you, many more would have died today." Parker bowed slightly. "We came to help, but I must be honest with you. My 4 ships cannot stand against the full might of the Vorax. We need to contact Earth and request reinforcements." "Will your people agree to help us?" another elder asked. "We are strangers to them." "I don't know," Parker admitted, "but I will do everything in my power to convince them." Walsh stepped forward. "The Vorax will return, and when they do, they'll be stronger. We need to understand them better if we're going to defeat them." The council agreed. They shared all their knowledge of the Vorax with the humans, including scans of their ships and recordings of previous attacks. As they studied the information, Foster made an important discovery. "Sir, look at this. The smaller Vorax ships have no life support systems. They're drones, not crewed vessels." "And the command ship?" Parker asked. "Massive life signs," Foster replied, "but not individual ones. It's like one giant organism." Walsh's eyes widened. That's it. The Voraks aren't a species with a hive mind. They're a single entity controlling multiple bodies. The command ship isn't just giving orders, it's the actual Voraks. Parker understood the significance immediately. Then we don't need to defeat an entire fleet. We just need to take out the command ships. As they developed this new strategy, a message arrived from the Courage. A small Nalari transport had been captured by a Vorak scout ship that had stayed behind. How many Nalari were on board? Parker asked. None, came the grim reply. It was the transport carrying our wounded crew members from the Honor. Parker's face hardened. Now the Voraks had human prisoners and access to human DNA. The race to understand the enemy had become even more urgent. Admiral Parker paced the bridge of the Liberty. It had been 3 days since they had sent a message to Earth asking for reinforcements. 3 days since the Voraks had captured human prisoners. 3 days of helping the Nalari evacuate their homeworld while waiting for the enemy to return. Still no response from Earth? He asked Commander Miller. She shook her head. The quantum relay is working. They received our message, but they're taking their time deciding. Parker understood why. This would be humanity's first war with an alien species. Such a decision couldn't be made lightly. But every hour they waited put more lives at risk. What's the status of the evacuation? He asked. About 500,000 Nalari have been moved to the outer colonies, Miller reported. But that still leaves over 3 million on the planet. Lieutenant Foster approached with Dr. Walsh. Sir, we've been studying the Vorax ship fragments we collected after the battle. You need to see this. In the science lab, Walsh showed Parker a magnified image of what looked like living tissue. The Vorax ships aren't just controlled by a biological entity, Walsh explained. They are biological. The metal parts are grown, not built. Foster pointed to another sample. And this is even more interesting. This is Nalari DNA mixed with Vorax cells. Parker frowned. They're absorbing Nalari genetic material? Why? We think they use it to evolve, Walsh said. They take useful traits from species they encounter and incorporate them into themselves. The Nalari can heal quickly. That would be valuable to any organism. And now they have human DNA too, Parker said grimly. The alarm sounded before anyone could respond. Admiral, to the bridge, came the urgent call. On the main screen, they saw not the return of the Vorax, but a fleet of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. Human ships. Earth responded after all, Miller said with relief. The fleet was impressive. 15 warships led by the massive dreadnought Determination. As they took up positions around Nilar, the Determination's commander, Fleet Admiral Sam Wilson, contacted the Liberty. Admiral Parker? Wilson said, his weathered face filling the screen. Quite a situation you found yourself in. Parker stood straight. Thank you for coming, Admiral. The Nalari need our help, and the Vorax are a threat to everyone, including Earth. Wilson nodded. The Security Council agrees. That's why I'm here with the 4th Fleet. We're to assist the Nalari evacuation and gather intelligence on the Vorax. But we are not, I repeat, not authorized to engage in full-scale war unless directly attacked. It wasn't everything Parker had hoped for, but it was a start. With the human fleet in place, the evacuation sped up dramatically. The Nalari were grateful, and many of their scientists volunteered to work with the humans to develop defenses against the Vorax. One of these scientists was named Tala. Unlike most Nalari, her skin had a purple tint rather than blue. She worked closely with Walsh and Foster to understand the Vorax better. My people have a legend, Tala told them as they examined Vorax tissue samples. It speaks of ancient travelers who warned of devourers among the stars. Beings that consume not just resources, but the very essence of other life forms. We thought it was just a story to frighten children. Every legend has some basis in truth, Walsh said. Maybe your ancestors encountered the Vorax or something like them long ago. Foster looked up from her work. I've been thinking about their attack pattern. If the command ship is the actual Vorax entity, then the smaller ships are just tools, like the arms and legs of a single organism. Exactly, Tala agreed. And like any organism, it should have vulnerabilities. Their research led to an important discovery. The Voraks communicated with their drone ships using a specific frequency of energy that acted like a nervous system. If we could disrupt that signal, Foster suggested, we might be able to disable the drones without having to destroy each one. Admiral Wilson approved their plan to develop a disruption device. Meanwhile, he sent scout ships to track the Voraks fleet. The reports were troubling. They're gathering a much larger force, Wilson told Parker during a strategy meeting. At least 3 command ships with hundreds of drones, and they've been attacking other species as well, not just the Nilari. Parker studied the star map. They're working their way toward us, testing their strength against weaker opponents first. Learning from each encounter, Wilson added. Getting stronger. The human fleet prepared for battle. Ships were upgraded, with new weapons designed to target the Voraks' biological components. Crews trained day and night, knowing they would soon face an enemy unlike any humanity had encountered before. On the 7th day, as the last of the disruption devices was being installed, a single small ship appeared at the edge of the Nilar system. It was of human design, one of the escape pods from the Honor. Life signs? Parker asked as a rescue team was dispatched. Just one, came the reply. Very weak. The survivor was Petty Officer Joe Wilson. His body was battered, with strange markings across his skin, when he regained consciousness in the Liberty's medical bay. His eyes were wild with fear. They're in my head, he whispered to Parker. I can still hear them. They're coming, and they know everything about us now. Dr. Walsh sedated Wilson and ran tests. His DNA has been altered. There are Vorax cells throughout his body, but they're dormant. I think they used him as an experiment. Or as a message, Parker suggested, to show us what they can do. That night, as most of the crew slept, alarms blared throughout the fleet. A massive energy signature had been detected entering the system. The Vorax had returned, but this time, their ships looked different. The drones had elements of human design mixed with their biological structure. The command ships were larger, with new weapon systems that resembled human technology. They've evolved, Foster said in horror. They've incorporated our technology with theirs. Admiral Wilson ordered all ships to battle stations. This is it, people. The Security Council has authorized full defensive measures. We protect the Yais, Nilari and ourselves at all costs. Parker watched as the human fleet formed up against the approaching Vorax armada. They think they know us now, he said quietly. They've studied our technology and our biology. But there's one thing about humans they couldn't learn from a few prisoners. What's that, sir? Miller asked. Parker's eyes hardened. When we're backed into a corner, we fight harder than any species in the galaxy. Let's show them what humanity is really capable of. As the two fleets closed to engagement range, Foster activated the first disruption device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, dozens of Vorax drones suddenly stopped, drifting aimlessly in space. It's working, she exclaimed. But the victory was short-lived. The command ships quickly changed their control frequency, and the drones reactivated. They adapt. Fast, Parker said, but so do we. He opened a channel to all human ships. This is Admiral Parker. Remember what we're fighting for today. Not just the Nilari, but all species who want to live free from the Vorax threat, including our own. Execute Battle Plan Phoenix. Good hunting. The largest space battle in human history was about to begin. Space lit up with weapons fire as the human fleet engaged the Vorax. The Liberty led a strike team of 5 smaller ships directly toward the nearest command ship, while Admiral Wilson's determination provided heavy fire support from a distance. All ships, execute evasive pattern Delta, Parker ordered as Vorax energy beams sliced through the void. Remember, aim for their propulsion systems first, then weapons. From her tactical station, Lieutenant Foster coordinated the disruption devices. Each time the Vorax adapted to one frequency, she switched to another, causing momentary confusion among the drone ships. It's not stopping them completely, she reported. but it's slowing them down. Commander Miller monitored the battle from her station. We've lost the Valor. The Courage is taking heavy damage. Parker gripped the arms of his command chair. The human fleet was fighting well, but they were outnumbered. For every Vorax ship they destroyed, it seemed 2 more took its place. Sir, we need to try something different, Foster said. The disruption devices aren't enough. Dr. Walsh, who had been monitoring the battle from the science lab, called the bridge. Admiral, I've been analyzing the Vorax command ships. They're not identical. Each one gives off a slightly different energy signature. What does that mean? Parker asked. I think they're specialized, Walsh explained. Different aspects of the same organism. If we can determine which one is coordinating the attack, we might be able to disrupt their entire strategy, Parker relayed. This information to Admiral Wilson. We need to identify the lead command ship. Wilson's face on the screen looked grim. He had just watched 3 of his ships get torn apart by Vorax weapons. How do we do that? Tala, the Nalari scientist, joined Walsh on the communication channel. The command ships will be protecting their leader. Look for the one with the most drones around it. The fleet's sensors scanned the Vorax formation. At the center, surrounded by a wall of drone ships, was a command vessel larger than the others. Its surface pulsed with strange lights that seemed to match the movements of the drones. That's our target, Parker said. But how do we get to it? Foster had an idea. The Nalari medical ships have cloaking technology to avoid detection when they retrieve wounded from battle zones. What if we modify one of our shuttles with their cloaking device? Parker saw the potential immediately. A small team could slip past the drones and plant explosives directly on the command ship. The plan was risky, but they had few options. While the fleet continued to engage the Vorax, a shuttle was quickly modified with Nalari technology. Parker insisted on leading the mission himself. I can't ask my crew to take a risk I'm not willing to take, he told Wilson when the Admiral objected. Commander Miller and Lieutenant Foster volunteered to join him, along with Dr. Walsh and Tala, who could operate the Nalari technology. As they prepared to depart, a message came from the Determination. Admiral Parker, this is Captain Ben Ryan. Admiral Wilson's ship has been hit. He's transferring command of the fleet to you. Parker felt the weight of responsibility grow heavier. Now the entire battle depended on his decisions. Tell Admiral Wilson to hold on, Parker replied. We're going to end this. The shuttle launched from the Liberty's Bay, its cloaking device making it invisible to both human and Vorax sensors. Tala navigated carefully through the chaos of battle, avoiding debris and weapons fire. The cloaking won't last long, she warned. The energy drain is too great for a ship this size. They approached the Vorax command ship, witnessing its true size up close. It was massive, with a surface that looked more like skin than metal. Strange protrusions that resembled organs pulsed beneath a transparent outer layer. It's alive, Walsh whispered in awe. The entire ship is a living organism. Foster checked her scanner. I'm detecting an area with less energy shielding. It might be a vulnerable point. Tala guided the shuttle to the spot Foster had identified. The cloaking device began to flicker as its power drained. We need to hurry, Miller said. Parker, Miller, and Foster donned spacesuits while Walsh prepared the explosives. The plan was simple. Attach the bombs to the command ship's vulnerable area, then retreat to a safe distance before detonation. Tala, keep the shuttle ready, Parker ordered. As soon as we're back, get us out of here as fast as you can. The 3 officers exited the shuttle through the airlock, pushing themselves toward the Vorax ship's surface. Up close, it was even more disturbing. The outer layer rippled like water as they approached. It's reacting to our presence, Foster said, her voice tense. They reached the vulnerable spot, which looked like a thin membrane surrounded by thicker tissue. Miller helped Parker place the first explosive while Foster kept watch. Suddenly, the east eye's surface beneath them trembled. The Vorax had detected them. Hurry, Foster urged as small openings appeared in the ship's skin, releasing what looked like antibodies. Tiny drone ships no bigger than a human hand. Parker attached the second explosive. One more to go. The small drones swarmed toward them. Foster fired her weapon, destroying several, but there were too many. One attached itself to Miller's suit, burning through the material. "Commander!" Parker turned to help her, but Miller pushed him away. "Finish the mission," she said through gritted teeth. More drones attached to her suit, and she screamed in pain. Foster grabbed Parker's arm. "We have to place the last charge, or she dies for nothing." With a final look at Miller, who was now surrounded by the tiny drones, Parker moved to the final position and attached the last explosive. He set the timer for 2 minutes. "Back to the shuttle now," he ordered. As they pushed away from the command ship, Parker looked back to see Miller floating lifelessly, her suit breached in multiple places. Another officer lost. Another friend gone. The shuttle's cloaking device failed completely as they approached it. Orcs drones began to converge on their position. "Get in," Tala called as she opened the airlock. Parker and Foster scrambled inside just as weapons fire erupted around them. The shuttle rocked violently as it was hit. "The engines are damaged," Tala reported. "We can't outrun the explosion." Walsh looked at the timer on his device. 30 seconds. Parker made a quick decision. "Head directly for the Liberty. Full speed." Tala pushed the damaged engines to their limit. The shuttle limped toward the human flagship as Vorax drones pursued them. 15 seconds, Walsh counted. Parker opened a channel to the Liberty. "This is Admiral Parker. Prepare for shock. Wave. All ships move to Sector 4 immediately. 5 seconds, Walsh said. Parker closed his eyes and thought of Commander Miller, who had given her life for this moment. The explosion was more powerful than anyone expected. The Vorax command ship didn't just break apart. It seemed to die. A ripple of energy spread outward from it, affecting all the connected drone ships. The shuttle was caught in the blast wave, spinning wildly toward the Liberty. Parker was thrown against the wall, his vision blurring as his head struck metal. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the strange beauty of Vorax ships drifting powerless in space, their biological systems shutting down one by one. The plan had worked, but at what cost? Admiral Parker opened his eyes slowly. White light surrounded him, and for a moment he wondered if he had died. Then the medical bay of the Liberty came into focus, and with it, the face of Dr. Walsh. "Welcome back, Admiral," Walsh said with relief. "You've been unconscious for 3 days." Parker tried to sit up but felt a sharp pain in his chest. "The battle?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "We won," Walsh replied. "When the main command ship was destroyed, about 2/3 of the Vorax drones shut down completely. The other command ships retreated with their remaining forces." Parker closed his eyes, remembering. "Commander Miller?" Walsh's expression darkened. "She didn't make it. Her sacrifice gave us the time we needed to place all the explosives." Parker nodded silently. He would mourn her later. "Lieutenant Foster? She's fine, already back on duty. Admiral Wilson is recovering too, though his injuries were severe." A gentle voice interrupted them. "May I enter?" It was Elder Kira, accompanied by Tala. "The hero awakens," Kira said, her forearms moving in what Parker now recognized as a gesture of respect. "The Nalari people owe you a debt we can never repay." Parker shook his head. "Too many died for this victory. But many more will live because of it," Tala said. "The Vorax have withdrawn from all Nalari territory, and we've learned something important from studying their disabled ships." Walsh picked up the explanation. "The Vorax aren't just a biological collective. They're a species that was dying. Their original form couldn't survive anymore, so they evolved to incorporate traits from other species. They attacked us out of desperation," Tala added. "Their way of surviving was to take from others." Parker considered this. "That doesn't excuse what they did." "No," Kira agreed, "but it helps us understand them, and perhaps find a better way forward." 6 weeks later, Admiral Parker stood on the bridge of the Liberty once again. His injuries had healed, but he carried new scars, both physical and emotional. Lieutenant Foster, now promoted to commander, stood beside him as his first officer. Through the view screen, He watched a historic sight. Nilari ships were returning to their homeworld, not as refugees but as settlers reclaiming their home. "I never thought I'd see this day," Parker said. Foster smiled. "The defensive network is fully operational. If the Voraks return, they'll face both human and Nilari technology." The combined fleet had established a perimeter around Nilari space. More importantly, research from the captured Vorak ships had led to better understanding of their biology and technology. "Admiral," a communications officer called. "Incoming message from Fleet Command." Admiral Wilson's face appeared on screen. He looked older with new lines on his face, but his eyes were clear. "Parker, the treaty has been signed. The Nilari are officially allies of Earth. Their medical technology is already saving lives in our hospitals." "And the Voraks?" Parker asked. "Our long-range scouts report they've established a new territory far from both our worlds. They're not attacking anyone at the moment." Parker nodded. Perhaps the Voraks had learned that humans were too costly to fight, or perhaps they were simply regrouping. Either way, humanity would be ready. Later that evening, Parker visited the memorial that had been erected on Nilar. It listed the names of all who had died in the conflict, human and Nilari alike. Commander Susan Miller's name was near the top, as you. He stood there. Elder Kira joined him. "Our history now speaks of the day humanity's fleet arrived," she said softly. "The day that changed everything." Parker looked up at the stars. "We came from different worlds, but we found that we share the same hopes. To live, to grow, to build a future for our children. And now we will build that future together," Kira replied. In orbit above them, human and Nilari ships patrolled. Side by side, scientists from both species worked together on new discoveries. And in hospitals across two worlds, the injured and sick were healing thanks to shared knowledge. It had begun with a distress call and a decision to help strangers in need. It had cost lives and brought pain. But as Parker watched the sunset, on a world that had nearly been lost, he knew that humanity had found something precious among the stars. Not just allies, but friends. And that was worth fighting for.